influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Editorial, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising@KBLA1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got you Black.
1, 2, 3, go! I'm gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me back in style again.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com, that's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, 2 conversations. Up first, New York Times opinion columnist and author Pamela Paul with her thoughts on Kamala Harris at the top of the Democratic ticket. Pamela's take on Kamala Harris is a bit unorthodox, I warn you, but I invite you to stick around for the top of hour 2, and I'll interrogate her thesis and see if you buy her argument. On the B side of hour 2, Harleen Carr, the CEO and founder of Ground News, shares her insights on what her organization is discovering about the way Kamala Harris is being covered by the mainstream news media and more. The findings might surprise you. Harleen Carr of Ground News on the B side of hour 2. In our third hour today.
But the relationship between morality and power is a very subtle one. Because power, ultimately, with no morality, is not any longer power. You cannot call Spain a powerful nation. You can't call Franco a powerful man. He's got a whole nation in jail. But that's not power.
No.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. His game isn't running.
Precisely. Now, when our game starts running, and after all, baby, we have survived the roughest game in the history of the world.
Yeah.
We really have. No matter what we say against ourselves, no matter what our limits and hang-ups are, we have come through something, and if we can get this far, we can get further. And we got this far by means which no one understands, including you and me. We're only beginning to apprehend it, and you're a poet precisely because you are beginning to apprehend it and put it into a form, which will be useful for your kid and his kid, and for the world. Because we're not obliged to accept the world's definitions. Just because white people say they're white, we're not obliged to believe it. Just because the Pope says he's a Christian, we're not obliged to believe it.
And we'd be crazy if we did.
We have to make our own definitions and begin to rule the world that way. Because kids, white and black, cannot use what they have been given.
And they're rejecting it.
They're rejecting it. Nobody wants to become the president of Pan Am, or the governor of California, or Spiro to Agnew. The kids want to live.
Yeah.
And we have out of terrifying suffering a certain sense of life which everybody needs. And that's morality for me.
She is back. The incomparable Nikki Giovanni is back in our third hour today, just in time to celebrate 100 years since the birth of her friend and confidant, James Baldwin. If you are unfamiliar with this classic conversation, we're going to tap you in today with Nikki Giovanni. Over 50 years ago, recorded live in Europe, this conversation between a young 27-year-old Nikki Giovanni and an almost 60-year-old James Baldwin. An amazing conversation between the two of them. Historic. If you Google it, you can find it online in a few different places. But to celebrate the 100th birthday of James Baldwin a few days from now, we'll be joined in our third and final hour today by Nikki Giovanni to reflect on that, and I suspect a great deal more. Can't wait to get to hour 3, but I can't wait to get this show started today because it is time for me to finally say for decades what I've always wanted to say. Let's play hardball with Chris Matthews. I love that opening line. Let's play hardball with Chris Matthews. I was honored any number of times to be a guest on Chris's MSNBC show back in the day. No one has analysis quite like Chris Matthews. What an honor for me it is to welcome Chris Matthews for the hour to this program. Chris, how are you, my friend?
Thank you, Tavis. And, there was a young kid that once said, I loved, maybe more than one kid that used to love the opening to the show. They just like to hear that line.
No, I love it too.
Let's play hardball.
Let's play hardball. And there's a lot of hardball to play. So I'm warning you right now, if you can't handle playing hardball, then this is not the hour for you to tune in. I hope you won't tune out. But I'm warning you, it's going to get rough. There's some rough waters. A lot to talk about. BB is speaking before Congress today. We got to interrogate that. Biden is addressing the nation tonight. We got to talk about that. And wait for it. I've been telling my audience, Chris, for weeks now, that they are going to Willie Hortonize Kamala in a way that you cannot imagine. I share with you this. The slut shaming has already begun. Let me just play. Hold that thought 1 second, Chris. I'm going to free you for the whole hour. Let me just set this up, my friend. Yesterday, I was talking to my producer about how this was going to play itself out. And within a matter of an hour, I kid you not, this clip was released online. I repeat again, the slut shaming of Kamala Harris has already begun. Listen to this clip of Megyn Kelly. Now keep in mind, this is the same Megyn Kelly who Donald Trump excoriated, humiliated, and embarrassed, talking about there's blood coming out of this place and that place and blood coming out of every place. I remember that nasty, ugly, sexist comment that Donald Trump made about Megyn Kelly. But listen to what Megyn Kelly is saying now in defense of Donald Trump, that Megyn Kelly, and what she sees as fair game in this campaign. This is Megyn Kelly. Take a listen.
I mean, Willie Brown seemed to think so.
I wasn't going to go there.
I'm going there.
I'm going there.
There's a debate. There's a debate on this on Twitter right now about whether her sleeping with Willie Brown when she was an up and coming, inspiring politician in San Francisco is fair game. It's fair game. It's part of a pattern of her ascending to positions that she does not deserve based on merit for other reasons. First, she slept with this guy Willie Brown, who was this extremely popular, powerful congressman out in California. In the assembly out there, went on to become the speaker out there. And he put her in two different positions that she did not deserve when she was only 29 or 30. He was 60. Already that affair is sus. And she was making the equivalent of 130 grand a year by today's money for meeting twice a month for these medical boards and another position for which she had zero qualifications.
Let's play hardball with Chris Matthews when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Hey LA. Today I'm here to talk to you about Grid Alternatives, which is a nonprofit in LA that focuses on renewable energy. We serve communities who have been left out of the renewable energy sector. We offer paid job training, and in 13 weeks, you can become a solar installer. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry, and once you're hired in the industry, you stop at a high, medium income. That could be $20 an hour or more. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry. Call today so you don't be left out at 323-861-0105 or gridalternatives.org, gridalternatives.org.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downey are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/DC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
So the slut shaming of Kamala Harris has already begun. If you Google any number of stories, you will see them calling her, and I quote, Jezebel, a hoe, a DEI candidate. They're even going in on her being childless. Childless. So the slut shaming has begun. They are raising questions about her merit, whether or not she earned her way to the top or slept her way to the top, starting with Willie Brown. And it raises finally this question for me that I've been saying to y'all for weeks, whether or not white women are going to get her back. I know that Megyn Kelly is not all white women, but I will yield to Chris Matthews and let him have his say, and we're going to run the rest of the hour. But are white women going to get Kamala Harris's back? If this particular white woman who Trump dogged out has now done a 180 and she's getting his back, you take my point about whether we can truly expect white women to vote their privilege or to vote their best interest, which would be to support Kamala Harris. I digress and pass the baton, the microphone to the gentleman from Hardball, Chris Matthews.
Well, the way I look at it is that I think it was Al Gore who said, if you don't define yourself first, somebody else will do it. So you got to get there first. And I started, and some great speechwriter and Vice President herself figured this out 2 days ago. They started out by saying that she came up as a cop. She was derided as a cop, but she was a prosecutor, a district attorney elected in the primaries and in the general, elected and elected in the generals and the primary for attorney general. She was elected to those positions as a prosecutor. When she called out Trump the other day, brilliantly, as saying, I recognize this guy. I recognize his type. He's a fraudster, an abuser of women. She was the whole list of who he is. And she nailed him like a prosecutor looking across the courtroom at the defendant and saying, that guy is the bad guy. I've seen him before. I know him. He's a clever, charming fraudster, abuser of women. Okay, that's what you have to do. You have to define yourself. She is not a member of the squad. She did not come up on the left making political statements. She came up as a doer. So she has to go back to that and run on it. There's no way the people on that side are ever going to love her. They're going to use anything they got against her because they're afraid of her. She can win. It's going to be an upset, I'll admit that, but she can win. And they don't know how to deal with her because she can go in that courtroom and point to the other guy right to his face and say, you are a sex abuser. You are a fraudster. You cheated everybody on Trump University and Trump Airlines and everything and sneakers and everything else. You are a cheat and a crook, and I'm calling you to your face. She can do that as a woman of color. She can do that. This stuff on the side, I've been hearing those stories. You've probably been hearing, Tavis.
Yep.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? And everybody has their own private story. Who cares about Kennedy's girlfriends and all that stuff? Who cares? The fact is they only care because they're trying to stop her.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to say who.
I would embellish it by, you're doing it because you got to react. But I'm telling you, to think that that's going to be a national story is bull. It is not going to be on the front pages of the newspapers. It may be out there in Truth, whatever he calls that thing of his.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, I don't think he's going to get on front. I don't think Trump would ever raise this in a debate.
Okay, so let me go there. On that, we disagree. Now,
you think Trump would raise this?
Oh, absolutely. He would not raise it first, but this guy. I was in the boxing ring last night. I box, as my workout. I got a great trainer, and I love getting in the ring every night, every other night when I can get there. So I was in the ring last night, and we were talking about Kamala and Donald Trump. And my trainer and I got into a conversation about the fight that many of you saw or remember where Mike Tyson bit off the ear of Evander Holyfield.
Sure.
Mike Tyson had been the world champion, one of the best world champions ever. But at a moment of desperation, when he knew he could not win that fight, he bit into Evander Holyfield's ear. The referee in the ring said if you do that again, you're going to be disqualified. He should have been disqualified the first time he bit into Evander's ear. But the referee says if you do it again, Chris, I'm going to disqualify you. And what did Mike Tyson do? He bit into that ear a second time. My point is that desperate people do desperate things. None of this, I don't think there's anything beneath Donald Trump. He would not go there first, Chris. But if she goes on that E. Jean Carroll thing, which you know she's going to do, she did it to your brilliant point the other day, he only has one retort. His retort is, well, you're a hoe. You slept your way to the top. You telling me you don't think Donald Trump would do that? Of course he would.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I knew, like you, she was a guest on my show, and I completely, utterly believe in her story about what happened in Bergman Dordorf in that dressing room.
E. Jean Carroll, you mean? E. Jean Carroll, you mean? Yes.
It happened.
Yeah.
It happened. And she won the court, and the judge found her. And this guy's been found guilty, by 12-0, and he lost by 7 million votes.
Yeah.
He says he won California. I just love that audience who tried me. He was in Detroit.
Yeah.
You know that? He said he won California, and they all cheered. Well, why'd they cheer? That's the second question. Why'd they cheer? Because they wanted to believe the lie. They knew he didn't carry California. He didn't get close to it.
Yeah. But I just don't think, you and I agree on pretty much everything. I just don't think that anything is beneath Donald Trump, including that. Again, he won't go there first because it invites all the E. Jean Carroll. It invites the Stormy Daniels. He won't go there. He won't lead with it. But I don't think it's beneath him to respond that way if they go there first, if she goes there first. And to your point, she will because she has to. Here's my question. My question, Chris Matthews, is whether or not, and you pretty much said this earlier, but tell me a bit more why you don't think this has legs with women, particularly women who get upset with other women who behave in ways that make it appear that women only sleep their way to the top. In other words, it's not so much the part of sleeping with Willie Brown, a married man, even though he was separated. That's not where I think the argument is going to be made. So I think you're right. That won't get front page. I think what does get front page is conversation about whether or not she earned her way into the game. And everybody wants to believe that we are a country of merit. You and I both know it don't work that way. I'm a black man. I really know it don't work that way. But everybody wants to believe that if you work hard, you receive the rewards. And if you call into question this notion of merit, now that, my friend, I think is a conversation that does have some legs. You disagree, I take it.
No, I think first of all this about women of color, of prejudice is all real. There's nobody can deny it. I mean, nobody. Who can deny it? I mean, what are we talking about? Nobody can deny it. It's there. It's in degrees. It's pushed back. It's pushed away from people. People grew up with some of it. I did. We grew up with it. You just push it away. My grandfather, he wouldn't have had this conversation with you. I mean, he just wouldn't. He just couldn't be capable of it. It's not the way they grew up, and you just have to keep fighting it. You know, you got to fight the anti-Semitism, all this stuff.
Yeah.
That grew up around you. I mean, you heard it, and you go, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to live like that. I think a couple things. First of all,
sure.
She has. I'm just talking politics.
Sure.
I'm not a sociologist. I know in Pennsylvania that Joe Biden was losing Pennsylvania before the debate, well before the debate. He was losing it. We want to, the ethnic stuff, South Philly, where the Italians are.
Yep.
He lost it. Where the Irish live in Northeast Philadelphia. He lost it. Okay, you're familiar with this stuff, how people vote. You know, the elite liberals may have voted for him against the other guy. But I'm telling you, there's prejudice. It's in Queens, New York. It's in Brooklyn. There's different neighbors. Go to different neighborhoods. You can just figure it out. Where the prejudice is going to be. It's there. So she has to overcome that with her running mate. She's got to be a puncher. I just wrote a column last night. She's got to punch, and she's got to have a running mate who knows how to punch. So not just appear pretty, but be really a real fighter. Because she's got to fight, and he's got to fight. So by the way, 4 years ago, I wrote a column in the San Francisco Chronicle, my old newspaper for 15 years, and I endorsed her for vice president. So I thought she'd be a good vice president. I thought she really did back up Biden. And I think they did have a good relationship between them. Now, they had a lot of problems around them, clearly. But between them, they never had a problem. It was a simpatico relationship. She's got to find somebody else like that.
There's no doubt
She's got to find a fighter.
We'll come to that in a second, I promise you, her VP choice. There's no doubt that she started out with a rather bumpy ride. How do you think that she's, I don't want to say landed the plane, but it started out pretty rocky. How do you think it moved forward? Did it get better? Did it get worse? What do you make of the ride she had as VP?
Let's face it, Biden got worse.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start right there.
Right.
Biden got worse.
Okay.
He couldn't talk. I don't know how he's going to talk tonight because the first thing a president has to do is talk.
Yeah.
And then do. But talk. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I think the border thing was BS. Sending her down to Venezuela and ask what the real problem. The problem is there's no hope down there. A lot of the governments are awful. You don't find a job because there aren't any. So people come up looking for asylum. We know what's going on. You don't need it's not it's not Jeopardy. What causes assimilation or causes immigration? This is a better country to get it. Would you rather be working in a restaurant? I don't care if it's a restaurant, if it's being a pearl diver, washing dishes, or would you be living down there with no hope?
Yeah.
You want to come home with a couple $100 at the end of the day. You want some money, and that's the hope. But I think if I were her, I'd do something dramatic. This is really dangerous. I'd say, I'd take that deal that the Republicans cooked up and they're going to give to both parties and it was going to pass. And then they pulled back because Trump said pull back. I'd endorse it. I'd have the nerve to just say, okay, it's probably not a perfect plan for just the Democrats, but let's go with it. Let's see how many Republicans are going to back me on it. Yeah. I'm going with it. I'm going to go with that deal that Trump shot down, that Langford came up with in Oklahoma. Yeah. I'm going to be for that. Because we got to do something about the numbers coming in. We got to do something about the numbers, and I'm going to do it. And it's going to cost me some edgy trouble around with the Hispanic leadership. But I'm telling you, we got to start doing something and stop talking about this problem because it's killing our party, not just the country. So
let me ask you: you are obviously not a white woman.
I should say it's definitely killing us, the party. I should just say it's the party.
Yeah, no, I take that distinction. Let me ask you a question. You're not a white woman, obviously, and neither am I. But at least you are married to a white woman, who I know well and like Kathleen, very nice person. I wonder whether or not.
Okay, let's take a case. Let's take the OJ case.
Okay.
Marcia Clark. Marcia Clark's a woman, right? She
was
a strong woman.
Right.
She was the district attorney when she had the job of prosecuting that case. I don't think that jury liked her.
Right.
I don't think they liked her personally. So it's her personality. She didn't look like the boss. Maybe she's the one that was difficult to work for, or they imagined her mother, one of them working for her, and I said, wait a minute.
Right.
I don't like that person.
Right.
She looks like she's a penny pitcher, and she's going to be bothering me and micromanaging me, and I don't like her. She's too perfect. Now, you never know. I mean, the district attorney in that case probably figured, well, they'll identify her with a woman because this was a killing of a woman. And I go, well, it didn't work that way. I don't think it did. The chemistry wasn't right. So I don't know how to speak for that. I mean, the idea of working your way to the top or having somebody helping you out politically, I don't know. I think people are going to look at her and say, wait a minute, she went to Howard. First question, I'd say, why'd you go to Howard? Because she did want to identify with the African-American experience in this country. For whatever reason, that decision to go from the West Coast to Howard is a statement she should explain. I want to see her on television and radio saying, I chose to go to Howard because of its great tradition as a black leadership place where people learn to be leaders. And I really wanted to go there to identify, even though my mother is Indian and my father's Jamaican, I wanted to be connected with the African-American life. And I think that's a fascinating question.
I want to go back.
And I think that's what, if I were her, I'd explain that clearly, not just to the black community, but to everybody.
I want to go back to your Marcia Clark analogy. That's why I love talking to Chris Matthews. His analogies. He's a great writer, great thinker, and a great host. Back to Marcia Clark, and I love that you went there again. Marcia Clark had a likability issue, to be sure, and so does Kamala Harris. Her likable numbers are not high. As you well know, you cover this every day. Hillary had the same problem, likability. Now, clearly there's a gender issue here. I ain't stupid. You ain't got to call me and tell me that. I get the gender issue. But there are other women who have higher likable numbers. Michelle Obama, for example, is much more likable. How does Kamala deal with those low likability numbers, not unlike Hillary Clinton, Chris Matthews?
Well, I got to tell you something about Michelle, because Michelle she was difficult in the sense that she didn't think enough people liked her. She's 70% in popularity. So you can read these numbers different ways, but I thought she was popular. She told a story one time about young men. Now, she has 2 daughters, and she has no sons, but she told this wonderful story about young men. And she didn't say about black men or people of color. She just said every man. Because young women used to be able to say, I'm going to be at home with the kids. I'm going to do a good job as a homemaker. I like the word homemaker. I'm going to do that. See, they can also say, I want to be a senator from California or something else, or I want to be Secretary of State. But you had the choice. Today, a young man has to be a winner. He has to be the super guy in the NFL or the NBA. He's got to be there as a winner. He's got to do it in the corporate world. He's always got to be a winner. And that kind of pressure is really hurting young people today. Now, she gave that speech, and I go, wow. I have young boys like that. I worry about them. They're living out in L.A. I'm worried about how you hustle your way out there. I'm thinking, how the hell do you do that this morning? What do you do it today? Who do you call today? How do you hustle on the phone? How do you get something done? How do you get a meeting going? How do you do that? I don't know how to do it. So she understands that. So I think telling stories, I would think if I were, I said this on Morning Joe the other day, I said, if I were Kamala Harris, I would say, I got to tell you what it was like being raised by a tiger mother, an Indian mother, a real tiger, and a Jamaican father. He may be laid back. We don't know what the guy's personality was like. But what was that like at home?
Hold that thought, Chris Matthews. My question for Chris Matthews is, how does Kamala Harris get around these low likability numbers? That's what Chris is addressing. More of that and a great deal more about Bibi and Biden when we come forward. We're playing hardball on Tavis Smiley with Chris Matthews.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A reminder, President Biden's address tonight to America can be heard live on BIN at 8 p.m. Eastern. Iowa's law that bans abortions at around 6 weeks is set to take effect next Monday. A judge gave the order Tuesday to dissolve the temporary injunction after the state Supreme Court denied a hearing request by Planned Parenthood and the ACLU of Iowa. The law, signed by Governor Kim Reynolds last year, will ban abortions after embryonic cardiac activity is detected. R&B singer Chris Brown is facing a lawsuit for an alleged attack following a show in Fort Worth, Texas. The lawsuit claims Brown and his entourage beat up 4 men that were invited backstage after his concert at Dickies Arena last weekend. The plaintiffs are seeking $50 million. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Snoop Dogg will be one of the last celebrities to carry the Olympic torch Friday night to kick off the Summer Olympics opening ceremonies in Paris. Carrying the infamous torch is a long-standing tradition to officially start the Olympic Games. Organizers have yet to announce the last person who will carry the torch into the Olympic Stadium to light the flame. A new era for the Chargers begins today under new coach Jim Harbaugh. The Chargers begin their training camp today in El Segundo. Las Vegas oddsmakers are predicting only 8 wins for the Chargers. Harbaugh is used to winning. He's coming off an undefeated and national championship season at Michigan. The 49ers were 6-10 the year before Harbaugh became their head coach. The next season in 2011, the 49ers were 13-3 and made it to the NFC Championship game. They were in the Super Bowl the following year. Do not sleep on Jim Harbaugh. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. I started Blindster in 2010 in my garage after I overpaid for new blinds. I researched the industry, hired my mom, and 14 years later, we're one of the largest retailers of custom blinds in the U.S. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada. Member FDIC.
What if the conversation about menopause and bladder leaks didn't have to be a secret? Always Discreet helps you embrace this new chapter with confidence, offering a bladder leak solution that keeps you worry-free. Its rapid dry core quickly locks away even the biggest gushes with up to 0 leaks, 0 wet feel, and 0 odor, so you can jump, dance, sneeze, and laugh uninterrupted. Everyday protection for every level of leak. We've got you, always. Try Always Discreet today.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Tavis Smiley and Chris Matthews coming your way right about now. We're playing hardball with the one and only Chris Matthews. Honored to have him on this program. Chris, I was asking you moments ago how Kamala deals with these high negatives. Hillary Clinton had the same problem, could never really turn the corner. Finish your answer about how Kamala better does that.
America is built on storytelling. People learn about how they grew up. People like to learn about what it was like to be a kid, what it was like to have parents to give you a hard time. And I think if she can talk about that, what it was like to grow up in an interestingly mixed background. She doesn't have African-American in her background, actually, although Jamaica's nearby, but it's a Caribbean background, and it's also an East Indian background. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They're very tough. In terms of reputation, the mothers are very tough with their student kids. They want those kids to get all A's, and they're called tiger mothers. And I think she should talk about that. How did she get into Berkeley? How did she get into Howard? Well, how did she get that career going that got her on the way to being Attorney General and a senator and a vice president? That is an amazing. She could talking about Willie Brown is BS. Yeah. And how she got all those successes one after another. That had nothing to do with Willie Brown. Come on.
Right.
I mean, how did she get elected Attorney General? And he wasn't a powerhouse in the state to that extent. Not that I know him. He's a great, brilliant guy.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about him.
Yeah.
But he didn't get her the vice presidency. He didn't make her the senator. She did that. She knew how to project. But I tell you, part of projecting at the presidential level is getting people to like you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. If it bothers you, don't run for it. People have to say, you know what, I should have rooted for her over him. Trump's a bum. I think she's got it. I see some things in her I like. You got to get people enough little grains of truth where they go, you know what? I remember voting for Muskie or Humphrey back in '68, the first time I voted, and I go, one of the reasons I'm for him is his civil rights record, which goes back to '48 when he was mayor of Minneapolis. But I like this guy Muskie, and it made a big difference for me. I think running mate matters. I think storytelling matters. I want to know who she is a little more from her side, a little laughs, a couple jokes about being who I am. Yeah. What's it like to be her? She married this Jewish guy. That's sort of interesting. How'd that happen? Give us a little sense of how you met. What brought you two guys together? That is interesting to everybody. It's People Magazine, but excuse me, People Magazine sells.
Yeah.
Because it's about people. And I think and she's got to tell the story. I always thought, I love those stories. Tell me more.
Yeah.
You want to be my president? I want to know who you are.
No.
And I want to know how you get along with a white guy, to be blunt. What's that like? When you get home at night, what are you talking about? Where do you have your differences? Do you argue about race? Do you argue about society? Do you or don't you? I mean, what's to give? Give me the inside.
Chris Matthews laying out the blueprint, and he ought to know. He's been at it a long time. He's right about this, and I say this all the time to my colleagues in this business. Certainly at this radio station where I'm sitting in Los Angeles, we're syndicated across the country, but I'm always talking to my team here in L.A. At my home station, KBLA Talk 1580, and telling them that what makes radio work is anecdotal storytelling. Storytelling is what makes radio work. When you get folk to open up and they tell you stories like Chris Matthews is telling me right now, that's what makes this medium works. Yeah.
Who was great? It was Larry King listening to Don King in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Two guys that know something about gambling. And I'm telling you, it was smoky. It was smoky, and you could tell these guys have been in the back room.
Yeah, I love it. It makes the medium work. Let me ask you two questions before I move to BB and Biden. Two major speeches today. BB before Congress, BB Netanyahu, and Biden before the nation later this evening. Two things you said earlier, Chris. I want to come back to you right quick. You know this because you wrote a book about it. This is your lane, the Kennedys. Do you think if the country knew then about the Kennedys' dalliances that it would have mattered to America at that time?
Yeah. I think if they knew about, Jack's slandering, which they would have found unbelievable, he was taking that many risks, political risks. All these, the more I hear about them, I find them almost, they're not unsettling. I go, wow, how many of these high society women that he went out with, they weren't just the Marilyn Monroes, there were these very high, Gene Tierney's. It was not just Hollywood, it was very, very high society women that he had all these relationships with. I don't get it. One thing writing two books about Jack was I never understood his relationship with Jackie. I never understood it. What gives here? What's his feelings for her? Why did he do this in a way that embarrassed her all the time? Here's a woman who did everything right as a woman. She was beautiful. She was charming. She dressed incredibly well. She was a perfect wife to him. She spoke Spanish and French and campaigned for him. And look what he did to her. He left the evidence around. I don't understand it. Bobby, I think, was a much different character. I think Bobby was pretty. I think he was pretty much saintly. He may have had some tricks for all I know, but I think he was a pretty saintly guy. In fact, Jack knew the difference between the two of them. There's a big difference between Jack and Bobby. Bobby was a saint in many ways, and Jack was a charmer. A real charmer. Two
other things you mentioned. I want to come to you right quick. You mentioned earlier that you think Kamala can win, but then you used the word upset. You said it is going to be an upset.
It'll be upset. The numbers are there.
Yeah. Tell me more. Tell me more.
I said, Tavis, it was below, the President of the United States, and he's still the president, will be president tonight through January. He was behind Trump in Pennsylvania before the debate.
Right.
And I'll tell you why. I went through each one of the counties in Pennsylvania. I grew up there. And you know how Carl used to talk about between Pittsburgh and Philly and Alabama?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I went through those states, those counties.
Yeah.
There's 50-some of them out of 67. In every one of those rural counties, it's going from about 68% to over 70% between 16 and 20. This guy is on a roll. He is on a roll in the rural areas. I went up there and walked around up there and talked to people. I got the feel for it. It's very angry white people. And I'm telling you, he had to offset them. So where was he going to offset it? He had to build up his youth community in Philadelphia among minorities. And then Philadelphia's already 85% for Biden. Come on. What do you got to do? You got South Philly's a problem, Northeast Philly's a problem. He's got to build up the numbers of the suburbs with the abortion issue. It's a real challenge for her. It really is. And I do think it's an upset. Yeah, I think if November comes out, she wins the most. She will win. She'll have the most popular vote. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But winning in the Electoral College, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, trying to win in Arizona, Nevada. These are tough states.
Yeah.
Especially Pennsylvania. There's a lot of angry white people up there, and I don't understand it. J.D. Vance wrote about the Appalachian mentality. I don't know. They feel left out. They didn't go to college. They don't feel they got the breaks that other people did. They probably, in a way, I didn't expect it, were confounded and angry about Barack Obama's presidency. I didn't know that, but I saw what happened.
Yeah.
They didn't like it.
So Chris Matthews makes the point.
He was too good.
Chris Matthews makes the point that he thinks that Kamala will likely win the popular vote, but the electoral map is a very different thing. Haven't we heard that before? That you win the popular vote, but you can't pull off winning the electoral college vote. So when we come forward, given that Chris has just laid out what the map looks like, I'm curious as to what Chris Matthews thinks ought to be the choice that Kamala makes for VP based upon trying to win the map. Who does he think she ought to pick as a running mate? And then we'll talk about BB's speech today in front of Congress. What's that all about? There are a whole lot of Democrats a significant number of them who are boycotting this speech today. I'm talking Nancy Pelosi. I'm talking Elizabeth Warren. I'm talking Bernie Sanders, names you know and others you may not know, but a lot of James Clyburn. I'm looking at the list of all these Democrats who are not appearing or will not be in the audience today. Of course, Rashida Tlaib out of Michigan. Chris just mentioned Michigan. But a number of Democrats boycotting this speech today of BB before Congress. Then, of course, the big speech tonight to the nation from President Biden explaining why he made this decision to stand down. More Hardball with Chris Matthews when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. Just a few short months ago, California Attorney General Rob Bonta filed 11 felony charges against Diana Turan, an assistant district attorney for Los Angeles County. The charges allege that Turan unlawfully accessed confidential computer data, including police officer files in 2018, and continued to use them after joining the DA's office in 2021. Ironically, Turan, who is now on administrative leave, oversaw the Public Integrity Division responsible for handling high-profile cases of police misconduct and public corruption, including the charges brought against LA City Council member Karen Price last June. To be sure, the case against Price has raised plenty of eyebrows. Indeed, one noted legal scholar has said publicly, and I quote, "Everything about this prosecution reeks," close quote. Could A.G. Bonta, with aspirations to become California governor, be punishing Turan for her role in D.A. George Gascon's police accountability agenda to curry favor with police unions? Could D.A. Gascon be using the case against Price to showcase his tough stance on crime and political corruption as he vies to retain his seat as D.A.? Honestly, I have no idea, but here's what I know for sure. Karen Price has been elected and re-elected by thousands of voters, mostly black and brown, who stand to be further disenfranchised if this matter is not handled correctly, which is why it matters to us at KBLA Talk 1580. When the prosecutor is being prosecuted, it seems to me that at the very least, there ought to be a thorough, top-to-bottom, independent review of all cases under Diana Turan's purview to ensure that none of these cases have been tainted. Justice and fundamental fairness demand no less, if public trust truly matters. And I hope it does. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Tavis Smiley. We welcome your feedback.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Chris Matthews as we continue playing some hardball here in the few minutes I have left between now and the top of the hour. So, Chris, you laid out the map pretty nicely. You laid out the challenges Kamala faces, and yet you believe that she can pull off the upset. You're certain now she can win the popular vote. The Electoral College vote is a very different thing. So, based on all that you've just said, who do you think she ought to pick as her running mate?
Well, whenever Eric Holder's pulling together, and I'm sure he's doing a good job, he's the guy in charge of the vetting. Yep. She's got to pick, and she'll make the pick. Somebody who has to look her in the eye and say, I will fight like hell. This guy Trump, this crook, this bad guy. I will go after him tougher than you will. I'm going to make this guy pay. And by the way, the thing she did the other day, it's the kind of punch she stuck when she called him a type, the kind of a charming crook.
Mm-hmm.
She nailed him. It's like calling Richard Nixon Tricky Dick. It's one of those nicknames that's going to stick with him, and that's what I want. Somebody who pounds this guy so hard it leaves marks on him. Because you got to give a guy, you got to put some record on him. You got to call him for what he is. You can't just be cute about it. And so she's got a guy that's really got to make some points politically with him. And that's not easy to do because most of the people who vote for Trump don't even hear this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it could be Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. Could be. They need Pennsylvania. It could be, the guy from Arizona.
Mark Kelly.
I don't know them.
Mark Kelly,
I don't know them as punchers.
Yeah.
I don't know them as punchers.
Yeah.
Somebody that can really, not a guy who's a clever boxer, but a puncher who really leaves some marks on the other guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's politically, Trump is so slippery. And there are people that don't even, I watched that Republican convention, a good part of it, listened to it on the radio. I was stunned how little they talked about who he is.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't talk about the guy, you know?
Yeah.
So let's talk about BB. Let's get to BB.
So Trump. Yeah. One more question on Trump. We'll get to BB and Biden. I promise. Very quickly here. My time is tight. What do you expect would happen on a debate stage with Kamala and Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, she will attack like she attacked Biden in the first primary of the Democratic primary back before the 20 election.
Right.
She will go on the attack. She has to go on the attack. She's got to treat him as a perp. He's a perp.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's a defendant. He's had multiple cases behind it. It's a lot of cases she can bring up. There are no rules. I'd bring up all the cases. E.G.
Right.
Carol, I do everybody. I did a hush money case, the whole thing with the dropped cases with the documents. I'd bring it all up and bring it in as a political indicter. I'm indicting you politically with the American people. I want them to be the jury. And it hasn't worked in court, but I think she's got to do it.
Fair enough.
And I think that's what I think.
Fair enough. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Chris Matthews, we'll talk about BB and Biden, two major speeches today. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
5 more minutes of hardball with Chris Matthews. Chris, yield it all to you. Take it as you will. Bibi Netanyahu is speaking today before Congress. I mentioned earlier, a lot of people boycotting this speech. I ran the list moments ago. Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Dick Durbin, Tim Kaine, lots of folk on the House side, including members of the Squad, AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, a lot of people boycotting this talk today. What is the point of Bibi giving this speech today as you see it, Chris Matthews?
He's trying to go around President Biden like he's done before. I was with President Biden when he was vice president over there in Jerusalem. And the minute we left that country, Bibi announced some big new housing development in the West Bank. A total insult to Biden, and Biden had to take it on the chin. This guy is not going to be our friend. He's going to push housing developments on the West Bank so there's no West Bank left to give back to the Palestinians. He doesn't want a two-state solution. He doesn't want anything for those people who almost equal the number of people living in Israel, Jewish people. And I don't know what his plan is, because if there are going to be more Arabs than there are going to be Jewish people, what's his plan for Israel? What's he going to do about it? Except no vote for the Arabs. That's what he wants. No vote for the Arabs. Just, they got to live there, but they're not going to get the vote. I think that's not the American position. That's not our position. We want to see a two-state.
Why do you think this invitation was extended to him?
For partisan reasons.
Yeah.
And I think the Republicans have been playing this game with Mike Johnson. They don't have any history over there. They don't know what's been going on over there. They don't know how awful it's been for the Arab people. I was over there many times. I've seen the Arab people, these business guys, trying to walk through these teenage Israeli soldiers with the IDF. And I kept thinking, these guys have to walk through guys with guns pointed at them just to do business every day? Jesus.
Yeah. In the last 2 minutes, I'm not sure what I expect tonight from President Biden. His address, the news is out. The campaign is moving on. Kamala is the presumptive nominee. So do I care about this speech tonight?
Well, he has to do one thing by not doing it. He may have a real attitude, as we say in Philadelphia, a real attitude about Nancy Pelosi. He has a right to that attitude.
Yeah.
But he cannot express it tonight. He cannot say what he thinks of those people like Carville and all those guys who have all come out and said he has to leave. And there are a lot of them. I think, he's got to be calm, and he's got to say he did it because of age. There was a real reason for him to do it. He got older. It's like a boxer. We're talking about boxing.
Yeah.
I remember Joe Louis couldn't beat some guys in the 50s. Archie Moore, they were just too old. And Jersey Joe Walcott. All the guys that I rooted for as kids, they got too old. That's what it is. Like top quarterbacks can't throw as hard anymore. It doesn't work. It just does. You get too old for it. That's what happened to Biden.
Yeah.
It's probably happened in the last 6 months. And they should have told us about it. They didn't tell us about it. They should have told us.
Nope.
That's what they should have done.
On that note, we agree. Chris Matthews, what a great hour playing hardball with you. Happy to do it anytime you have time, my friend. Thank you for all the years of your brilliant analysis, and you're still doing it, and I thank you for this time.
Hey, thank you for having me on the show. It's great. Thank you for having me. Bye.
My great honor, Chris. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A reminder, President Biden's address tonight to America can be heard live on BIN at 8 p.m. Eastern. Iowa's law that bans abortions at around 6 weeks is set to take effect next Monday. The judge gave the order Tuesday to dissolve the temporary injunction after the state Supreme Court denied a hearing request by Planned Parenthood and the ACLU of Iowa. The law, signed by Governor Kim Reynolds last year, will ban abortions after embryonic cardiac activity is detected. R&B singer Chris Brown is facing a lawsuit for an alleged attack following a show in Fort Worth, Texas. The lawsuit claims Brown and his entourage beat up 4 men that were invited backstage after his concert at Dickies Arena last weekend. The plaintiffs are seeking $50 million. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Snoop Dogg will be one of the last celebrities to carry the Olympic torch Friday night to kick off the Summer Olympics opening ceremonies in Paris. Carrying the infamous torch is a long-standing tradition to officially start the Olympic Games. Organizers have yet to announce the last person who will carry the torch into the Olympic Stadium to light the flame. A new era for the Chargers begins today under new coach Jim Harbaugh. The Chargers begin their training camp today in El Segundo. Las Vegas oddsmakers are predicting only 8 wins for the Chargers. Harbaugh is used to winning. He's coming off an undefeated and national championship season at Michigan. The 49ers were 6-10 the year before Harbaugh became their head coach. The next season in 2011, the 49ers were 13-3 and made it to the NFC Championship game. They were in the Super Bowl the following year. Do not sleep on Jim Harbaugh. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Station in Southern California, home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach. Station in Southern California, home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Editorial, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising@KBLA1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got you Black.
That's the goal around here. I'm talking square business to you, baby. Square biz. We're going to keep it real with you to the extent we can. Just try to give you the truth as we see it, as we know it, recognizing that nobody has a monopoly on the truth. I recognize there's the truth and there's the way to the truth. But we are, I think, obliged to say what we see, to tell the truth that we know and try to wrestle with it. So it's all about square biz. Love that track from Tina Marie. In this hour, as promised, 2 conversations. On the B side of this hour, Holleen Carr, the CEO and founder of Ground News, shares her insights on what her organization is discovering about the way Kamala Harris is being covered by the mainstream news media right about now and more. The findings might surprise you. Holly Cower of Ground News on the back side of this hour. But as promised, we commence this hour in dialogue with New York Times opinion columnist and author Pamela Paul with her thoughts on Kamala Harris at the top of the Democratic ticket. Pamela's take on Kamala Harris is a bit unorthodox. That's one word for it. So I invited you to stick around to hear it. I'm glad you stuck around. We'll interrogate her thesis and see if you buy her argument in just a moment after I welcome Pamela Paul to this program. Pamela, good to have you on. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my great delight to have you. Pamela is, as I mentioned, a columnist for the Times, but for 9 years, she was the editor of the New York Times Book Review. I'm happy to say I've been covered there a few times for books I've written, but she was editor of the New York Times Book Review and oversaw all books coverage at the New York Times, which she joined in 2011 as the children's books editor, so a long history of doing some good work at the New York Times. I'm honored to have Pamela on this program. So, Pamela, your piece got my attention. Frankly, because of the title. I should inform the audience that this piece was written before all the groundswell of support for Kamala Harris, which is why I wanted to have you on, to see if there's anything you wrote before that you now feel differently about after. But let me start by giving the audience the title of the piece and letting you explain what you want to get across in this original piece. The piece was entitled, "The Second Worst Decision That Democrats Can Make." The second worst decision that Democrats can make. Let's start, Pamela, with you unpacking the piece for me and the audience first.
All right. Well, it feels like 10 years ago since I wrote that piece, I have to tell you, because the news cycle is happening so quickly. I believe that was from well over a week ago. So let me clarify what I meant by the second worst decision that Democrats could make. First of all, I think that, Biden hung on for way too long. He should have ceded. Frankly, I think that he should have been a transition candidate, a bridge candidate, as he said he was going to be back in 2020. But that if he had, even if he had continued to run, if he had dropped out earlier, it would have enabled the Democratic Party to really have an open field to audition and have a look at a wide range of candidates. And I thought that for him to hand off essentially the Democratic nomination to Kamala Harris was a mistake, because what the electorate had been telling him, what Americans have been saying, is that they wanted change. Well before, it became apparent that that Biden and Trump would be running against one another again, it was clear that Americans were really turned off by the prospect of these two old men who neither, were especially popular or have been popular in the last year, to be going up against one another. And that if you have that kind of disaffection with the status quo, then what you really want is the opportunity for change. And, we at the New York Times columnists were asked to propose alternate candidates and who we would ideally like to see. And my suggestion was Wes Moore, who I thought would be a very exciting change and a real new direction for the future. But obviously that wasn't done, and Biden instead, essentially handed Kamala Harris the Democratic nomination. He handed her over, $90 million war chest. And Democrats have subsequently obviously fallen in line with her candidacy.
So that's where I wanted to start there, because I wanted the audience to understand what your frame of mind was then, just a week ago. But to your point, the news cycle is changing, like not every day, every 5 minutes. We expect to hear from the president tonight, will in fact hear from the president tonight about this decision he made on Sunday, which also seems like a lifetime ago. It's only Wednesday, but it seems like months ago that the president made this announcement, because so much has happened in the few days since then. So my next question is whether or not there's anything about what you wrote then that you feel differently about now, given, again, the apparent groundswell of support inside the Democratic Party for her.
Well, look, in a contest between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, there is no contest in terms of where I would land. Obviously, I'm a registered. I've voted Democratic my entire life, and I will certainly vote for Kamala Harris should she be the candidate. And in all likelihood, it seems that she will. I think that Democrats are tired of the division within their party, and unfortunately, in a very quick span of time, the opportunity to have that open convention, I think, really has dissipated. And so at this point, I think it behooves Democrats to, solidify support for their candidate, who is Kamala Harris.
Just getting started in conversation with Pamela Paul, columnist for the New York Times. More with her when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses, like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Pamela Paul, opinion columnists for the New York Times. Pamela, I was talking in our first hour today with Chris Matthews, and I was joking with him that I am not a white woman, and neither is he, but you are. And I want to ask you what Chris and I were talking about or around, and that is this notion of how you think white women's votes are going to play in this campaign now that Kamala, again, is the presumptive nominee. I don't need to call it much more than that, but let's start with that and we'll jump from there.
Well, I don't think I don't know that this election is going to be decided by white women. I think that the key issues for those who are undecided or who have doubts about Kamala Harris, the key things will be on the issues, right? And for better or for worse, it's going to play out in the swing states where I think Kamala Harris, given her record, is somewhat vulnerable, right? Because she has been Biden's point person really on a couple of issues. One is as a spokesperson for abortion rights. There, obviously, she has a lot of strength, but I think that's well known at this point. I think the idea of having Kamala Harris be a figure for preserving democracy, I don't know that that resonates with most Americans. I think it's going to come down to immigration and the economy, and I think that her record on immigration will probably be a potential hurdle, a stumbling block that she is going to have to get over. And the second thing, I think, one other really important issue where I think she has strength is on crime. And on crime, not only in terms of having been a prosecutor and having been, quote unquote, strong on crime, but I think also in a way that I think will hopefully appeal to Democratic voters, is that she is not, when you listen to the rhetoric from Trump and Vance, it is about retribution. It is about vindication, vindictiveness. It is very punitive. But when Kamala Harris talks about crime, I think she talks about it in a much more moderate way in terms of criminal justice reform, prison reform, work on, recidivism and reentry programs, which are things that she did well in California. And I think that will play well, both in terms of the, Trump is a felon and she is a prosecutor, but also with the knowledge that we are not handling crime or quote-unquote punishment in this country. I mean, this is a country where, 1 in 5 Americans one in 5 people in the world who are prisoners are in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there is a knowledge that, real understanding that we need to change our approach. So I think, again, that the demographic thing that I do worry about, and maybe this is something that you could speak to better than me, is that one of the vulnerabilities that Democrats have had recently is an increase in support among Black men and Latino men for the Trump campaign. Mm-hmm. And I worry that her identity, obviously, as a Black woman and as a South Asian American, will count against her rather than for her.
Yep, there certainly is that slice. I'm not sure that anybody knows right now how significant a slice that's going to be, and we may get back to that. But there are two things you said a moment ago that I do want to probe as I'm watching my time here. Let me start. The two things are crime and immigration that you mentioned. Let me go to the crime issue first. Yeah. The crime issue did not cut so well for one Hillary Clinton, and you'll recall this, Pamela, quite well. All the trouble that Hillary Clinton got into about that term predators and super predators. Mm-hmm. You recall that Bill Clinton around that time actually apologized for parts of his crime bill and the ways in which Black and brown people were put upon and frankly incarcerated, not just put upon but incarcerated because of that crime bill. You had to get caught with 1,000 times more powder cocaine than crack cocaine to get the same sentence. Cocaine used in the suites, crack used in the streets. Clearly, it was racist, and Bill Clinton's my friend, but I told him this then when he signed that crime bill that I didn't like it, and I thought it would come back to haunt him. Indeed, it did haunt him, and it haunted Hillary Clinton, his wife, when she ran for president because of that super predator term that she used. My point is that the crime thing didn't play so well for the Clintons. Now comes Kamala Harris, and everybody's talking about the prosecutor thing. That is real, but there are a lot of progressives, Black folk and others, who have an issue with her record in San Francisco being the top cop, being the prosecutor. I'm not so sure that this crime issue is going to play as neatly or as nicely for her, even on the left, as you suggest it might.
Well, I think, the crime issue really is one of the things that felled her in her first presidential primary run because progressives were uncomfortable with the idea that this was a prosecutor who was running for office. But I think Kamala Harris has a difficult job on both sides in a way, and then she obviously then tacked a little bit more to the center after that. But first of all, we have to remember this is a prosecutor who was elected in the bluest city of one of the bluest states, California, San Francisco, in the country. And it is my view that we need more liberal prosecutors, right? We need liberals to be prosecutors just as we need them on the defense, right? And to say that, a liberal or progressive candidate or, person should not be a prosecutor is really to cede that to the most extreme right-wing people for those positions. That doesn't do anyone any good. So I actually thought that coming from the left, personally, I thought that her being a prosecutor was a very, very positive thing because, again, those are the people that we need in those roles. But I also do think that, again, I think the decisive votes in this election are going to be in the center, in the swing states. And I think that Kamala Harris, as someone who is smart on crime, not just tough on crime, which I think is the wrong message, but smart on crime and smart on justice, I think could play very well, especially when it's in contrast with a convicted felon who is Donald Trump.
Yep. No, I hear your distinction, and that's a worthy distinction. Smart on crime versus tough on crime. I just know, having done this for a few years now, that crime issue cuts a couple different ways, particularly when you're talking about black voters. That tough on crime, smart on crime message. I mean, in some ways, the phrase, while distinctly different, smart from tough, is code language. When you say we're smart on crime, black folk, Negroes ain't stupid. When they hear that term, they know what you're trying to say. And so I think that crime issues are going to get parsed in a variety of ways. I digress on that point for now, watching my time here. Let me move to the other issue that you raised, Pamela Paul, and I'm glad you raised it. And that is the issue of immigration, on which I think, and you think, that Kamala does have some vulnerability. Chris Matthews spoke to this in our first hour. Here's the irony for me, and I want you to sort of unpack this irony as you see it. The irony is that Joe Biden deserves great credit for choosing Kamala Harris to be his running mate, and he deserves even more credit for standing down and passing the baton to her, endorsing her in a very full-throated sort of way. You got to respect the white male president for giving the sister an opportunity. I get that. On the other hand, to the extent that she ends up being smashed on this issue of immigration, it's that same Joe Biden that set her up. I don't know that in retrospect they think now it was a good decision to give her that immigration issue as a part of her vice presidential portfolio, given how badly she failed on that issue. Again, you can say she was set up. That's a no-win issue in a lot of ways. And for the vice president to be given that issue on a docket of things that she could have handled because the president didn't want to deal with it because he knows it's a loser issue. Now it hangs around her neck, and I don't know how she gets it off her neck at this point.
Well, I want to answer your question on immigration, but I just want to make one more point about crime and about being smart on crime, and specifically about the appeal of that message, not just to white voters, but also, I think, to black voters, because, everyone or the media tends to focus on the fact that people of color are more often the perpetrators of the crime or the people who are imprisoned because of crime, but they are also the people who suffer the most from crime. And I think that it is that point that she can make very well, right? Because if the first point is true, then it is also true that black families are the ones who suffer when their family members are incarcerated. They're the ones who live in crime in neighborhoods and communities that suffer from a lot of crime, and what they deserve is safety. Safety is a human right, just as much as communities that are better, that are better protected, and not as fraught with crime. So I really do think that she can be someone who takes that issue of crime, and again, if she has a smart and sensible message and hopefully some really exciting proposals, policy ideas, could turn that into a real strength. Then to answer your question on immigration, I agree. This is probably the worst thing that she could have been saddled with by Biden in terms of the sort of areas that he handed handed off to. And, this is something that happens very frequently to vice presidents. They're sort of given the worst, they're dumped with the worst possible lot. And so she wasn't exactly set up for success. And she obviously was not the person who was really allowed to come up with an entirely new immigration policy that she could then enact. So I think it behooves her as a presidential candidate now to distinguish herself from the Biden administration, to come up with a fresh plan in the wake of, again, the really despicable decision by the Republican Congress to defeat the immigration bill, the bipartisan immigration bill, and to come up with some new plan. Because, again, Republicans are betting that it was going to be Trump or that it's going to be Trump who will be there to deal with immigration. I'd like to see Kamala Harris make a really good counter-proposal. This is where, she has a very short time in which to make the case for her candidacy, and I think one of the greatest challenges for her ahead is to distinguish who is Kamala Harris and what are her policy proposals as opposed to the proposals that it was her duty to carry out under Biden.
It's fascinating you say that, Pamela, because I mentioned Chris Matthews earlier, who was on in our first hour. And Chris made the point, since I referenced the Clintons earlier, that Kamala ought to do a bit of triangulation herself. His argument was that maybe she should just take the Republican proposal, make a couple of tweaks on it, and support it. Just come out and say, I support it. And you sort of back them in a corner. Yeah, she's going to catch some hell from some in the Latino community, no question about it. But you sort of just, it's the Bill Clinton play. You take their idea, you put your name on it, and you back them into a corner. What do they do at that point? It's something worth thinking about. I don't know that I have fully thought through it and agree with Chris on that, but I hear your point. I hear his point. Whatever she does, she's got to figure out a way to better navigate this immigration issue. I digress on that for now. I got 4 minutes left here. I want to cover two other things right quick. The first is, as we all know, the president tonight will give an address to the nation about why he made this decision. The New York Times clearly put their thumb on the scale, and the New York Times says it. Everybody pays attention to it. The editorial board, of course, some days ago called for him to stand down, and ultimately he came to that conclusion. So he'll speak tonight. But before he speaks, Bibi Netanyahu will speak to Congress before the president speaks to the nation. There are a number of Democrats, as I established earlier, who are boycotting that speech, from Nancy Pelosi to Elizabeth Warren to Bernie Sanders to James Clyburn, long list of notable Democrats, Dick Durbin and others, who are boycotting this speech today. I raise that because I have seen no evidence yet that Kamala's policy on the Middle East, on Israel and Gaza, is going to be dramatically different from that of President Biden's. How does she thread that needle? I think I read somewhere that she's meeting with Bibi tomorrow while he's in the country. Why shouldn't he? In fact, if she has a chance of being the next president, he's smart to meet with her, and she's smart to meet with him. But how does she thread that needle? For policy ain't going to be much different than Biden, and Biden, as you know, was already in trouble in places like Michigan, etc. on this issue. Say nothing of young voters.
All right. Well, first, let me just quickly push back on the idea that the New York Times put the thumb on their scale, because I think that the impetus for Biden to step down was coming from all over the place, including from top members, Democratic leaders in Congress. So I don't think that the Times necessarily was the decisive factor in that, or that we, in any case. But to get to your question, Kamala Harris is also not going to be there when Netanyahu speaks. I think that, Kamala Harris has done what she has had to do as the Vice President of the United States, which is to back the foreign policy of the President of the United States. She does not have an independent foreign policy, from Biden while she is in office as his Vice President, nor should she. However, we don't know what her policy is. I think, we have yet to hear it. Now is the time where she can start to articulate how her foreign policy might differ from Biden's. But I don't think it's inappropriate that there's been no space between her and Biden. There shouldn't be when you're supporting your your president. You're not there to enact an independent foreign policy. So it is an unknown, and I think that we should give her a fair shot at articulating what her views are. because we just don't know.
Fair enough. What's your gut tell you? I know you're not a prognosticator. You ain't got a crystal ball. Neither do I, Pamela Paul. What's your gut tell you about whether or not she can pull off what would clearly be an upset?
Well, you mean in the election generally, not specifically?
Yes.
I think that, again, the numbers are higher for her right now than they were for Biden. And so I'd like to focus on that positive. Again, we know she's had relatively low favorability ratings, but I think that she has clearly put, the fact that Biden has stepped down and that she is the candidate has clearly put the Republicans on the back foot.
Yep.
They were not prepared to take her on as a candidate. And there is going to be a very stark contrast between, 59-year-old Kamala Harris and, 78-year-old Donald Trump. I may have those figures slightly wrong, but
Close enough.
Clearly looks like a force for change.
Close enough, and I take your point. And by putting the thumb on the scale, I didn't mean that New York Times did anything unseemly. I just was trying to make the point that when the Times speaks, people listen, and I don't think you'll push back on that notion. We know that to be true. I digress. Pamela Paul is columnist for the New York Times, was, in fact, for many years, the editor of the New York Times Book Review. I've been honored to have had Pamela Paul on this program. Pamela, thanks for your insights. Let's do it again. Have a great rest of the day.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
Good to have you on. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A reminder, President Biden's address tonight to America can be heard live on BIN at 8 p.m. Eastern. Iowa's law that bans abortions at around 6 weeks is set to take effect next Monday. A judge gave the order Tuesday to dissolve the temporary injunction after the state Supreme Court denied a hearing request by Planned Parenthood and the ACLU of Iowa. The law, signed by Governor Kim Reynolds last year, will ban abortions after embryonic cardiac activity is detected. R&B singer Chris Brown is facing a lawsuit for an alleged attack following a show in Fort Worth, Texas. The lawsuit claims Brown and his entourage beat up 4 men that were invited backstage after his concert at Dickies Arena last weekend. The plaintiffs are seeking $50 million. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Snoop Dogg will be one of the last celebrities to carry the Olympic torch Friday night to kick off the Summer Olympics opening ceremonies in Paris. Carrying the infamous torch is a long-standing tradition to officially start the Olympic Games. Organizers have yet to announce the last person who will carry the torch into the Olympic Stadium to light the flame. A new era for the Chargers begins today under new coach Jim Harbaugh. The Chargers begin their training camp today in El Segundo. Las Vegas oddsmakers are predicting only 8 wins for the Chargers. Harbaugh is used to winning. He's coming off an undefeated and national championship season at Michigan. The 49ers were 6-10 the year before Harbaugh became their head coach. The next season in 2011, the 49ers were 13-3 and made it to the NFC Championship game. They were in the Super Bowl the following year. Do not sleep on Jim Harbaugh. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Texting enrolls you into reoccurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's LION to 42424.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downy are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/DC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Please welcome Harleen Carr back to this program. She's the CEO and founder of Ground News. And I invited her on today because I want to check in with her, this independent source, to get a sense of how we are seeing Kamala Harris being covered these days. And not just Kamala, but Joe Biden, the debate, his announcement. I'm always fascinated by the ways in which the media, the various media outlets choose to, or not, cover certain stories and the spin they put on it, the frame they put it in. And this stuff always doesn't surprise me, but always I find it interesting when I get Harleen on to talk about the ways that her organization, again, is patrolling the way that news is being covered, again, or not. So, Harleen, good to have you back on the program. How are you today?
Good, Tavis. Thank you so much for having me back. Very excited to be speaking with you.
It's my great delight. I'm going to get to Kamala here in just a second and what you are seeing about the way the news media is covering her or not. But given that the President Biden, is speaking to the nation tonight, explaining in greater detail his decision to stand down and to pass the baton, to endorse Kamala Harris as a Democratic nominee and President of these United States. I want to go back just a few weeks ago to this debate. And I'm curious, I haven't had a chance to talk to you since then. Just tell me quickly what Ground News saw in terms of how that debate and Biden's performance, and Trump's performance for that matter, what did you notice in how the debate was covered amongst the media?
Yeah, the debate coverage was actually very fascinating because